All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to another stock market outlook video brought to you by DeepView. As always, we're going to talk about the market indexes, the leading groups and themes in the market right now, as well as cover a whole bunch of individual stocks that have a lot of potential. We're at a really key spot in the market right now. There's a lot to cover today. Stick around until the end. Leave a like down below if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos just like this one every single week. And if you're not familiar with DeepView, which is my main charting software, this is the best platform for CanSlim and growth position and swing traders. You can try the special offer right now. Give it a shot. 2 months for only $39. A really great deal. The link to that will be down below in the description, as well as popping up right now. So as I mentioned, really key spot. I really like how we ended this week. But just to add some perspective, first things first, we're still in an overall consolidation. We pulled back hard. There were signs of distribution up here, these big downside reversals, unable to break through this line of resistance. Expectation breaker on this day after this attempted push up, and then that was kind of confirmed the next day with this big reversal, breaking below the key moving averages, the 21 EMA, as well as the 50 SMA. From this point on, we've seen increased volatility. We've seen extensions to the downside, and now we've got some potential higher lows forming, and a promising move up here. We're back above that 21 EMA. We're back above that 10 EMA here, but we're still kind of facing the resistance here now. That's been created by all this trading and that key kind of 50 SMA, which really defines these intermediate term trends. And until we can really get above that, start to see the market respect that to the downside, really trend above that 21 EMA. Still, things are still basically going to be more volatile. There's going to be less kind of trends for us to take advantage of as traders. So definitely a good start this week. I really like how, and we'll touch on this a little bit, this kind of refusal to push lower after the Fed day. So it's actually kind of break down each of the days last week. So we had a potential rally starting here. We pushed into that 21 EMA. We found resistance in that area. Big reversal down here back below the 21 EMA. But that's actually a good thing, because until then, this reversal or this rally here hadn't been tested too much. We did have a positive test here where we gapped down, closed really strong, but we hadn't yet seen that kind of full EMA type crossback, pullback, higher low form after an initial move up. And that's really where the rubber needed to meet the road in terms of this rally staying alive and actually leading to a new uptrend. And so far, the signs are promising. So after this big reversal down, we obviously had the Fed day where we attempted to rally, got rejected right at that 21 EMA, closed near lows. So what's your expectation? Kind of ask yourself here, what's your expectation after this day right here? The Fed, announced we had this initial rally, then we completely closed near lows, completely closed and got rid of any progress made on that day, closed near lows. The expectation in terms of, my personal views is likely we continue to push lower. What happened the next day? Instead, we gapped up, tried to push lower, and then rallied strongly, finishing right near the high of this day and pretty high within this longer term range, the range from the prior day. Definitely a positive. I would call that a positive expectation breaker. You've got this reversal momentum to the downside, this reversal momentum to the downside, but the market refuses to push lower, doesn't even test this prior low here, which I think is key. And instead we have a really good close. And then the next day, we obviously have a gap up. Apple earnings certainly helped. We had a nice gap up here and a decent close overall. So I really like how we kind of stepped in after that reversal on the Fed day, refused to push lower, and now kind of we're attempting to really start a trend here. We're back above a rising 21 EMA. Now, in the very short term, we've got this gap here. We're a little bit stretched in the short term. We've got that 50 SMA resistance above. This is just a scenario I'm thinking out loud here. I wouldn't mind to see, some pullback into that 21 EMA area and then see a successful retest, reconfirmation. Not only would that, be another sign that institutions are stepping back in, but it would set up a lot of charts if we do have, a short-term flag, a few days, a week or two going sideways back into the moving averages, and then setting up a lot of handles that can resolve to the outside. Because even though we had this promising day on the indexes, although there are some stocks breaking out, a lot of positive earnings reactions actually, as we'll go through later today in this video, but there's not this kind of overwhelming sense that everything is set up, everything just taking off. And that's kind of what we associate with a traditional fall through day. There's the quantitative aspect, which is what the Nasdaq Composite is doing, what's volume. And then there's the qualitative aspect. What does the market leadership look like? Are there themes that can drive the market higher? And are there a lot of breakouts, happening in that moment? And we'll definitely cover, of course, later in this video, a lot of the themes that I'm seeing, as well as around 30 stocks that are on kind of my universe watch list that we'll go over shortly. But overall, into the QQQ, definitely promising. We'll see what happens next week. This scenario where we pull back for a few days, a week or two into that 21 EMA area, that could certainly happen, but we could also continue to the upside. So you have to be ready for any possible scenario. We could also fill this gap and break lower, and that would be a sign that this consolidation, this correction, needs a little bit more time to work itself out. But I like seeing that net new high lows are, there's actually some net highs coming through. We're not seeing overwhelming net new lows. And if you look at a lot of charts, you see stocks building bases, which is perfectly normal. You're not really seeing downtrends really starting in earnest. So that's pretty much it for the QQQ. We're at that key level. This will be a key spot for sure. And we'll just have to see kind of how it plays out. Again, we don't have to predict. We can think about potential scenarios, but we just kind of have to take it day by day. Think for yourself, what's your expectation based on the recent chart pattern, where we are within the larger context of the chart. What's the trend? Ask yourself all those questions and think about what would be a logical expectation going forward. Is it continuation to the upside? Is it some sideways action or continuation lower? And then if your scenario plays out, that's great. You're ready for it. If it doesn't, you should think through how you would respond to that. And that gives you valuable information as well. As I mentioned, those negative expectation breakers, whether you think a stock is going to fall through to the downside, instead it goes up, that's valuable information. The same, kind of happened here where we're expecting us to, push towards that 50 SMA. We're back above that 21 EMA. Things are looking good. What happens the next day? Downside reversal, and that just gives you more information and improves your perspective on the state of the market. Okay. So with the QQQ covered, I also like to take a look at the IWO because this gives you more of a perspective of what kind of smaller caps are doing. And apologies if I'm coughing at any point in this video. I am recovering from a cold here. But anyway, we've got IWO, very similar formation to QQQ. We're in a downtrend, started an initial rally, retest that 21 EMA, pull back again, had a good close, even better than the QQQ actually, but we had a gap up. And the key difference here is we had a much weaker close than the QQQ. So, would like to see this build out here, again, form some type of formation back into the 21 EMA, have that cross back, and then ideally the 50 SMA kind of curls down here, and then we get a breakthrough, whatever pivot forms here, but still promising. We'll see how this gap gets handled next week. Looking at the big caps, Apple, of course, had a nice gap up. You can see the daily closing range here, only 17%. So that pulled in, and we'll actually go through all these charts later on in the video as we go through the rest of the stocks I wanted to cover. But pivoting towards themes, obviously we've got tech leading today, acting really nicely. Semis, AI is still a theme. Healthcare equipment, which is a theme I'll highlight as we go through a few stocks, is something that's showing up in my scans. They're breaking out on earnings, acting well. PRCT, LIVN, TMDX is in that group. They're all acting well, all together. But on the flip side, we've got, if we scroll down here, cyber took a little bit of a pullback here. Miners are pulling in. So it's really kind of tech taking charge today, as we saw from QLD kind of leading the pack up here, ARCG as well, and SMH in here as well. But yeah, those are the key themes I'm watching. Tech, semis, AI, some software names as well. The healthcare sector at large, as well as the equipment group in particular. And let me know down below if you're noticing any other themes that are worth mentioning down below. All right. So with that said, let's move on from the indexes and themes and dive into some individual stocks. So bringing up Apple, for the first part. We've got this earnings gap up here. Let me bring up the earnings here. Didn't surprise on earnings, and looks like if we go over to sales, didn't surprise there either. Oh, actually, we did have a surprise on earnings here, but not much. But we had a really nice positive reaction. They did announce a buyback, which could be driving this, but you don't have the best close. So we'll see how this acts. I like how it didn't, of course, fill this gap completely, but still not the strongest close. So we'll see how this kind of forms out over the next few weeks. And if we can actually start, an uptrend, maybe it pulls back, forms a U-turn, and then starts really getting going above the moving averages. Kava, bringing up that chart, definitely a focus of mine, acting well. You had a retest of that 10 EMA here, and now it's right back at the pivot and kind of a re-break out here. Got a little bit of ahead of itself, pulled back. This was a potential spot to execute, and now we've kind of resumed to the upside here. We'll see if this can really trend above the 21 EMA. It had a really nice trend off, this primary base that it formed, for a few months here. And this is kind of a base right on top of the prior IPO highs, which is a key kind of larger pattern setup that I'm always keyed in on. Duolingo, another kind of big base here, acting well. We kind of broke out through a consolidation pivot today. A nice close yesterday. Again, kind of a retest of that 10 EMA, 21 EMA area. And just kind of a quick note, there's a lot of stocks acting like this where they're kind of leading the market, where we've had the reversal extension, we've pulled up here already, we've had the wedge pop on this day, now we've kind of retested the moving averages and resumed to the upside. So there's stocks kind of leading the market, and that's what we're looking for. Those stocks that are ahead of the pack and are kind of beach balls underwater, as they say, and are showing relative strength just as the market is kind of moving up as well. These stocks should be ahead of it in that price cycle. But acting well, definitely a choppy trader. I'd love to see it kind of finally able to trend. We've had a lot of kind of starts and stops, but I've started using this app actually, and it's very addicting. A lot of gamification, and very cool as well. So you can see it in the growth numbers, triple-digit growth. Definitely, a fundamental story that is pretty significant. It's got some AI involved as well. But software isn't the strongest theme right now, but this is incorporating some of that AI theme into its product. CEG, energy names, and this is electric utilities, have been acting well. This is a really strong stock, a little bit of a lower dollar volume name, I believe, but actually it's not that bad. And really nice action today, breaking above kind of this range that was forming against the 21 EMA. Really nice action, and we'll see if this can progress further or if it needs kind of an inside day, and then we get the re-breakout before it truly breaks out into new all-time highs. CVNA, secondary name, just gapping up on earnings. PRCT, part of that healthcare equipment and supplies group, acting well after our earnings gap. You can see, decent sales growth down here. Not really huge earnings growth, but the price action speaks for itself, up 40%. Then acting well the next day and the day after that. CRS, minor, acting super well. I actually talked with Lee Tanner in my interview with him. He was going over the stock. It's one he recently purchased, and we did that interview back in here. So acting super well, strong after earnings. Really nice earnings growth, as you can see right here, and an EPS surprise of 27%, and really good estimates going forward, especially in terms of earnings. SG, this isn't that kind of fast food theme. A little bit of weakness here, and definitely some big downside bars here, but I like how it kind of stepped up, upside reversal, retaking that 50 SMA, and then a little bit of fall through here, but looks like it might need, a little bit more higher low setup to really get going within this base, but definitely a name to watch, along with, of course, Kava, Wingstop, and we'll cover a few more of those names, but that's also a theme worth mentioning and keeping an eye on. NVDA, of course, we got to cover NVDA. Bringing up that chart, breaking through a consolidation pivot today, and I really like how it acted in here. One of the stronger names yesterday, formed a nice upside reversal, decent close off lows, retaking the moving averages on this day, and then popping through the 50 SMA, as well as this kind of key line here. So we'll see if this can progress higher within the base, or if it needs a little bit more time. Ideally, again, you get 1 or 2 days back into the moving averages, having them all grouped right there. You can easily manage risk just below them. And then as you push off of that, we want to see volume coming in And then, having your stop loss right under the moving averages makes it really easy to manage the position. You just kind of trail it at whatever stop loss you want to use. So definitely a name worth keeping an eye on. PLTR moving up the right-hand side, broke out of a low cheat today, decent close. I like how it pulled back and retested and closed pretty strong. IoT is very similar to this, moving up the right-hand side, and we'll see if this can actually get going. Another one that's been, good in spurts, but hasn't really had a sustained trend. But definitely, got that AI theme going for it, and something to keep an eye on for sure. IoT, similar action, a little bit stronger up the right-hand side, but this is a very choppy trader. I think every time I've tried to trade this, I've taken some small losses. It doesn't do super well with tight stops, but if you can catch at the right point, this is definitely a name that can move quickly, and it's got superb growth, as you can see down here in the earnings and sales. TMDX, that's a name I want to bring up. Green line breakout, where a stock, which is basically when a stock consolidates for at least 3 months, then breaks out. It basically just identifies a larger pattern base. Then we had kind of a mini consolidation within that, and then a really nice breakout on earnings. And you can see just tremendous growth, triple digit growth of 537% in terms of earnings. Sales growth also triple digit. We've got EPS surprises. We've got sales surprises, everything we want to see here. And the stock is acting really, really well. Progressed nicely from day 2 after retesting that HVC, actionable right in this area, and then nice fall through and acting really well. So just looking for it to trend above that 10 EMA and ideally start a multi-month trend right here. CPNG has been a name acting really well. Upside reversal yesterday, fall through to the upside today, and is showing superb RS relative to the market. Never even retest that 21 EMA, as many stocks in the market did so. So definitely a name worth keeping an eye on. MU also, of course, in that AI semi theme, popping up here, retesting the moving averages and decent close. So this is one to watch, through this area around 115, 116 to see if we can really start moving up the right-hand side of this consolidation. I really like how it retested the earnings gap lows as well as that HVC, and it found support there at this last pullback, shallower pullback than this prior move downwards. But definitely a name I think worth keeping on, as well as NVDA, PI, a lot of other names in that semi space. Wingstop, this is pretty strong. A lot of volatility due to earnings here, but pretty tight the last 2 days. Actionable potentially through these highs. And you could manage risk versus the low of these ranges. The 10 EMA as well is coming up here. You can manage risk right below that moving average, but just waiting to see, reconfirmation to the upside, another breakout, and we'll see where it takes us. There's a really nice trend prior to this base, pretty shallow as well, and definitely showed relative strength throughout this market correction. Let's see if there's any other key ones I want to highlight. So Tesla, always worth mentioning. So this had, of course, positive news catalyst, and has now kind of pulled back after this gap and formed a pretty tight range here. These 3 days, if you take a look, RMV is going to 0. So now it's kind of do or die here. Does it push higher and form a nice U-turn, or does it, completely resume the downtrend and, pull back below the 50 SMA? This is a longer term downtrend, but we're potentially seeing a little bit of a changing character here. We haven't restarted an uptrend just yet, but we'll see if we can continue to, go counter trend and eventually turn into a new uptrend if we can resume higher from this point. Let's see here. Let's take a look at Coin, representing the crypto theme. Still just kind of building out its space here. Decent close today. I like how it acted, and we're right at, right above this key level. I like how it acted. We're right at where all the moving averages are currently. There's a lot of stocks kind of at this similar point, and it's kind of a key thing of, do they progress up the right-hand side, or do we pull back in and potentially start a new leg down? That's what will really be key to watch next week. And I think it's kind of a key week here for us. So that's pretty much it for this video. We walked through the market indexes. We talked about the key themes, went through a lot of individual stocks. There's a lot to like right now. Obviously, you always have to manage risk, make sure you're doing that. But it's prudent now to be, looking to work yourself into the leaders, the stocks that are showing promise, showing relative strength and moving up the right-hand side ahead of the market. and give them a shot, see how they do. Listen to that market feedback, and if it's positive, continue to increase exposure either through new names or adding to existing positions, and we'll see how this rally performs next week. Let me know your thoughts down below in the market. Love to hear what you're looking for as well as watching in terms of individual stocks. And also remember to leave a like down below if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.